Recognizing Women with Canadian Place Name is an initiative by Natural Resources Canada. It is a collaborative effort facilitated by Janice Sharpe, Senior Director, Canada Centre for Mapping and Earth Observation, Natural Resource Canada, and Steve Westley, Manager, Geographical Names Board of Canada Secretariat at Natural Resources Canada. It has been a mammoth undertaking, and both experts in the science spoke with Lynn Brown about how the project and its mission is about to go.
As part of International Women's Week, we've been focusing on extraordinary women and some of the projects that they've undertaken right across our country. I'd like to introduce you to Janice Sharpe. She is the Senior Director of the Canada Centre for Mapping and Earth Observation, Natural Resources Canada. Hello, Janice. Welcome to Superior Media.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course, this is going to be exciting to learn about the mapping that you've undertaken. And I'd also like to welcome Steve Westley. He is the Manager of Geographical Names Board of Canada Secretariat, Natural Resources Canada. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Now let's get into the project. We're going to be talking today about a wonderful project that was undertaken called Recognizing Women with Canadian Place Names. So Janice, let's start with you. Can you talk to me about the art of, the science of cartography?
Well, you weren't wrong. Cartography is both an art and a science.
Yeah.
You know, the basic definition is it's the art and science of locating places on a map.
Yeah.
And it often tells us stories about the world around us. It tells us about our geography, about its people and its places, and sometimes about our history.
Yes, for sure. Now, let's talk about the project that you undertook called Recognizing Women with Canadian Place Names. Where did the project begin? What was the genesis for the idea of doing this?
Well, the Geographical Names Board of Canada, which is really the provincial territorial body that is responsible for official place names in Canada, came up with this idea for this map to show a sample of places like mountains and rivers and islands and island cities and towns named to commemorate women. And so this board has been approving place names for over 125 years.
Wow.
So 124. So this is actually our third map in a series. We have two other maps that we have already published. One was to commemorate place names associated with the military or war times.
Okay.
And the second was place names associated or named within an Indigenous background.
Okay.
So this is our third in a series. And we thought we really wanted to showcase some of this really important historical information that we have. And we thought that an interactive map would really be the best way to do that.
Yes, and I was looking at the map and it is very interactive. If you hover the mouse over the dot on the map, which is all broken down in categories, for example, St. Mary's, so the St. Mary's River, which is local for us here in Sault Ste. Marie, has its own place name on the map. So talk to us about that. How did you come up with how did you research all of these place names?
So obviously the Geographical Names Board you recommended these 500 place names. So they looked into their archives. They selected places that either there was a lot of information, some interesting historical information that they had at their fingertips, or place names that maybe were really important or relevant to their particular province. And so we have to keep in mind that this is 500 of potentially many, many more.
Right.
This is just a subset, and when we attempted to do a nice cross-section of place names named for women across the country.
Right. Now let's talk about the categories, Janice. Can you break those down for us?
Sure. So if you look at the map, the very first view that you see is all of Canada. So that's really the 500 points that are named for women. And as you scroll down, the map starts to show selections that have been categorized. So the first selection is names that are of Indigenous origin. So these are names that are connected to Indigenous women's activities or their accomplishments of a particular, or the accomplishments of a particular Indigenous woman. And if you click on each one of those, you can surface a little bit more information about that particular place. The third one, as you keep scrolling, is about women who are linked to colonial expansion. So primarily around European settlers. The fourth shows you place names that of women who have contributed to the fields of science and politics and community service. The fifth shows place names around royalty and religious figures. And the sixth one is places where we don't really know what the origin was. And so this gives you a really good sense of the broad diversity of women whose names were commemorated through the naming of a place.
Right, and I was fascinated to learn that the St. Mary's River, that place name, is taken from St. Mary of Nazareth. So as you're going forward, are you hoping that if there's a place name that someone is not, that hasn't been posted yet, will reach out to you to add to the map?
Absolutely. This is one of the wonderful things about our online world and digital map experiences. When you create a map, it's a picture on paper. It's really a picture of the world or Canada at that particular moment, and it's really static. But what's really nice about online maps is that we plan to continually update these. So right now we have 500 place names. We would like to continue to add more and to work with the Geographical Names Board to provide us more of these wonderful pieces of information about our history. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the map, if I'm not mistaken, there's a link where you can contact us, and we can take that information and consider it for our future releases.
Okay, that's perfect. So then that will go to the you said the Geographical Names Board, and now is that something then that Steve, that you would then look at? Are you the contact for that?
Yes, that's exactly right. I manage a team that supports our colleagues in the provinces and territories who collect and approve the names.
Wonderful. So maybe you can talk to me about how long the project took and maybe how many people were involved. Yeah, I'm sure it was mammoth. Yeah.
So a lot of the work involved here is really research. It's taking a look at the information we have and looking at the challenge ahead of us of mapping some 500 place names and making sure that in our at-home, working from home space, we're able to do the research to find this information online, which is a challenge in and of its own. And so a lot of the research that went into this and the collaboration with the provinces and territories is really what took up a lot of the bulk of the time. And then the preparation of data. I think we take for granted when we see a map on our phone that's just magic. It just happens. But all of the data that is behind that map actually takes quite a bit of effort to make sure that you can see it. It looks pleasing and it's got important information behind it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Steve, talk to us a little bit about maybe a favorite place name or some that you found surprising.
Well, I think some of the Indigenous names across the country are fantastic.
Yes.
The hidden stories that, the majority of people look at a name on a map or a name on a road sign and they don't think twice. But virtually all the names have a fantastic story behind them. As Janice mentioned, there are many that we really don't have a history for, but in the case of the Indigenous names, we're really working to research and understand the Indigenous language and the roots and what it means in all the Indigenous languages across the country.
Absolutely, because there's several languages for sure. Now, maybe, Janice, you can share with us, what advice would you have for young women who are thinking about cartography and map making and science as a career choice?
Well, for me, I've always been interested in earth sciences. I studied natural resource management in school at the University of Guelph, and I've always found that the field of geomatics is it's a really good mix of science and geography and geology. And today it's really a lot about technology and data analytics. And of course, there's always an element of art to it in the cartographic and how we look at things and the color schemes we chose and the symbols. So it provides a really rewarding way to look at the world around us. And my team comes from quite a long list of backgrounds. Some have diplomas or degrees in geography, some in geology, computer science, engineering, but most of them fundamentally have an interest in our Earth and describing it in some way. And I really think this is a growing field. Maps are all around us. They're on our phones, they're in our cars, and they're on so many platforms. And this doesn't happen by magic. It is people people who have an understanding of geomatics that make these things happen. And it's a growing field for women. As we know, they're underrepresented in the fields of science and engineering. And I strongly encourage young women to pursue careers in these areas and to ensure the work that we do comes from a place of real diversity and inclusion.
Right. And the STEM professions really help with moving our society forward. They would be undertaking some very fundamental and important research and collaborating with some incredibly gifted people, such as yourselves.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Steve, I'll start with you. Have you got something that you have top of mind?
Well, to reiterate what Janice had mentioned, we love to hear from the users, the viewers of our maps. So spread the word, please, and let us know if we can add additional names to the map.
Right.
Let us know if you can sort of fill in the blanks to some of the unknowns.
Absolutely. It's what I would describe as like a living document, something that can be added to and evolve over time.
Exactly.
How about you, Janice? Is there something that I have missed that we could share?
Well, I absolutely encourage people to explore this map. Like Steve has mentioned, it is really an interesting way to look at some of the untold stories about some of our inhabitants from the past.
Right.
It really gives us a glimpse into our country that we might not otherwise see.
Yeah.
And I really encourage people to share this with their students, with their young people.
Right.
It's a really good tool for them. They're never going to find this information online or in a book somewhere. And it's a really interesting and interactive way to explore our history.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate this, and I hope that there's some young girls out there that are thinking about STEM as a future for themselves and see themselves in you, and how to help keep moving our society forward through the through the passion of science. So thank you very much for being with us, both of you. And now we are going to stay tuned for more news with Colette Linden.